Yo, what's up YouTube? Vincent and you back here with another video today. Today's video I think is actually going to be pretty interesting. I'm going to discuss how to improve your shotgun aim and break down the mechanics of how to optimize your accuracy and effectiveness with the shotgun on console in Season 5. Before getting into the video, I want to announce once again that I'm actually going to be doing a V-Buck giveaway at 250 subs. The directions are going to be on the screen now. All you have to do is subscribe, like this video and my most recent video, turn post notifications on, and comment your PSN name below or in one of my other Fortnite videos. If you comment on multiple videos, you will receive multiple entries into the giveaway. Make sure you enter because winners will be announced at my 250 sub video, and there probably won't be that many entries, so you have a pretty good chance of winning. Alright, without further ado, let's get right into the video. So if you guys are like me, you've probably heard over and over again how shotguns are really no longer viable, and you can't really use them with the spray and pray meta of Season 5. This is just my opinion, and I'm probably in the minority in saying this, but I still think shotguns are pretty good and that they're extremely underrated at this point. They're definitely not as good as they once were. They're probably in the worst state they've ever been in Fortnite, but they're still really good, and I think if you use them correctly, that you could have a huge advantage over people who opt not to use shotguns anymore. So with that statement said, in the background I'm just going to have some recent clips of me using shotguns. And there's all Season 5 clips, there's some nice plays in there, where I just want to show that shotguns are still viable. You know, they're still valuable weapons. You know, you just have to use them a little bit differently. And I'm going to explain how I use them, you know, in Season 5, and you guys can just enjoy the clips in the background. So the first tip I wanted to discuss is, you know, what type of shotgun should you use? My personal preference is to take a heavy shotgun over a pump over a tac, and I don't really use a double shotgun that much, and I'll explain why in a little bit. For me, the heavy shotgun is just the most consistent in terms of both damage and accuracy. We've all experienced, you know, that 9 damage pump or tac shot, even when we're certain that our reticle is right on their neck or their head. But with the heavy, this is just a rare occurrence. You know, it doesn't really happen as much, because I think the heavy is just the most consistent in terms of damage output and accuracy. And, you know, the reason I take the pump over the tac is actually because of my next tip. And that is to, you know, take your time with shotguns. What I like to do is I like to get a shot off and then cover myself with builds. This is a big key to using shotguns now. You can't just jump in there and, you know, expect to kill them with one shotgun when they're sitting there with a P90 spraying at you. You need to be a little bit more clever with shotguns. So this is the style that I use. I take a shot and then I quickly build and surround myself and protect myself. And that's why I don't really use a tac shotgun. You know, for my style, I like to take a quick shot and then build around me. So having a rapid fire shotgun like the tac doesn't really have that much use for me. And the main goal with this playstyle, again, is to land shots and then quickly build around so that you can keep your opponent guessing as to where you are. Ideally, you want to land all your pump shots without taking any damage in return. It kind of reminds me of that game in arcades, you know, whack-a-mole, where the moles quickly hop out of the holes for just a second and you try to hit them. You basically want to be the mole with your shotgun, meaning that you show yourself for a quick second to take your shot and then you rapidly bury yourself back into builds so that you can't be hit. This really works for me. It's a little bit hard to get used to, but I highly recommend it. Alright guys, so my next tip is about positioning with shotguns. I'd like to just say initially that being able to hit jump shots with your shotgun is pretty skillful, and it will definitely give you a big advantage over your competition. So I highly recommend practicing it, but it's pretty difficult to learn. It's going to take a while. So kind of an easier tip that I'm sure most of you know by now is to do right hand corner peeks. So all the characters in Fortnite actually favor the gun on their right hand side. So positioning yourself so that you could third person peek around a corner or a wall is definitely something that you should practice. In this clip coming up, where I'm in Greasy Grove, you can really see that I simply right hand peek on this wall and wait for my enemies to come in and expose themselves. Patience is key here, and especially in close range and tight quarters, this is a really valuable technique to use. It will take some practice, you know, it's not going to be easy initially, but positioning like this is one of the kind of quickest things you can learn to really improve your game. If you really want to get better at it quicker, I recommend landing in high action places like Tilted, or just places where there's a lot of buildings like Salty, where you'll be in those tight quarters with a shotgun and you kind of got to play it out, and, you know, really positioning is the #1 determinant of who's going to win that fight. So you'll have plenty of opportunities if you do land in those high intensity places and get in those close quarter engagements. So I think that's the best way to quickly learn this. You know, here I'm just in Greasy and I kind of got, you know, I was stuck in here because there were so many people fighting outside, so I was forced to do this. But as you can see, this guy's just coming in. I have my shotgun out. He exposes himself, and I easily take him out in the head. So it's just really easy to learn, and it's a really, you know, kind of crucial tip to improving your game. So the next thing I want to quickly address, you know, I get this question a lot from some of my friends that I play with, is whether you should scope with your shotgun or hipfire. And personally, I don't think it's one or the other. I think you should do both, depending on the situation. You know, there are scenarios where you have plenty of time to carefully line up your shot and scope in with your shotgun. And in these cases, you should definitely do so. However, sometimes you're in more intense, rapid engagements where you can't really do that, and that is where you kind of gotta, count on your hipfire accuracy. These take some practice for sure. It's not always easy to hit those they're not necessarily flick shots depending on your sensitivity, but those hipfire shots are not easy to learn, so that's where you should really practice. Again, if you land in tight engagement places like tilted or salty, you'll have a lot of opportunities to practice this. Initially I wasn't very good at this, but something that I think you can practice kind of in between the two of scoping in and no scoping is to do a little quick scope. The mechanics in the game are that when you do this little quick scope technique where you quickly zoom in a little bit, it actually improves your accuracy. So what I've been doing, rather than just no scope or scope in, I've been doing these little quick scopes where you're aiming at their head or neck and you quick scope a little bit. It'll actually adjust your aim so that you hit, closer to their noggin and you get more damage output. So that's something I would definitely practice. Again, you should do both, practice both, read the scenario. It's not like, no scoping is always going to be the best, or that scoping in with your shotgun is always going to be the best. It's really based on the scenario and how much time you have to line up your shot. So my next tip is actually going to be about sensitivity. A lot of people wonder, what sensitivity should I play on to hit my shotgun shots? It really varies because I think a lot of it's personal preference. I personally play on 7.7. If you want to see the rest of my settings, I'm going to link it up in the top right corner here. And I can hit shots with that, and I think it's a good balance between being able to hit your shots and being able to build fast. But some people play on 6.6. Now, I wouldn't play much lower than that. I think 6.6 is pretty much the lowest you can go, where you can hit your shots and still build fast. But personally, I play on 7.7. I'm able to hit a lot of my shotgun shots. So really, you need to experiment. I think anywhere between 6 and 9 is a good range. Practice between that, see where you hit your shots, and see what works for you. But for hitting your shots with shotguns, you definitely need to have a sensitivity that's a little bit slower than like a 9 or 10, in my opinion. Unless you're really good with those flick shots, but in my experience, those are really hard to hit on console. That's more of a PC thing. So I think it's a lot of personal preference, anywhere in the range of 6 to 9. In my experience, 6 to 8 is really optimal. So try it out, see what works for you. I think that's the best range for sensitivity with shotguns. And then another thing I want to talk about is, in Season 5, because there's no such thing as a one pump or, one shotgun hit kill anymore, you can't just run a shotgun on its own. You're going to want to have a shotgun and a P90 or a shotgun and a Tommy gun, something like that, because you can't really just rely on the shotgun with the switch time now. You can't have two shotguns anymore. So personally, I like to use a pump or a heavy with, an SMG. I'm not a huge fan of the P90. I'll take a common SMG, not a common SMG, a non-suppressed SMG, or a Tommy gun over a P90, and I think hitting a pump shot with that and then switching to one of those is a really good strategy. You don't want to hit, if you hit an 8 shot with your pump, you don't want to switch to your P90 and then try to mow them down. In my opinion, you should build back up, line up your shot again, make sure you get, 60, 70, close to 100, get most of their shield off before you switch to your SMG. Because if you're both at about 200 health and you both have SMGs out, it's really just going to be, you might hit the shot first, he might hit the shot first, he might get one more headshot, so a lot of it's luck. So take your time. In my opinion, you should build up, make sure you hit a shotgun shot for most of his shield, if not all of it, and then switch to your SMG and try to mow him down. And along with that inventory tip, it's a lot of personal preference. I like to switch to an SMG. Some people can run a heavy or attack. It doesn't really fit my playstyle to use a shotgun on its own. But here in this video, I have attack because I couldn't find a pump, and I was able to make do with it. You kind of got to hit your jump shots. You got to be a little bit more careful. But it's a lot of it's up to you. But in my playstyle is to use a pump or a heavy, and then switch to an SMG once you get most of their health off. Now, my last tip I want to give you guys is definitely the most advanced on this list. Even I personally don't have it down yet. I've been practicing a lot, and I might make a video on it in the future. But it's what some people call the Tfue Classic. Basically, it's when you're built up, and there's someone scurrying down below your builds, and you're tempted to drop down and just try to kill them, but you don't really want to sacrifice the high ground. In theory, this allows you to take shots from above without dropping down and giving up your high ground. So basically, you jump, you hit a shotgun shot on them, and then you build a floor or a platform quickly below you. So in theory, this allows you to take your shotgun shots on your opponents from above without sacrificing the high ground. I don't really have it down yet. I don't have any great examples of me doing it just yet, but I definitely plan to post some soon, and I definitely recommend trying this technique out. Alright guys, so that pretty much wraps it up. I appreciate you guys sticking around and watching. Please enter that V-Buck giveaway. you know, there shouldn't be that many people enter, so you should have pretty good odds of winning. You know, if you're new, please make sure to like and subscribe, especially if you learned something from this video or you took something away from it. I really hope you did. I put some work into this video, and I thought it was pretty interesting and, you know, kind of unconventional, because most people, you know, think shotguns are dead, and I don't think they are, and I'm just trying to give you guys tips to still use them and, you know, still use them to your advantage and have an advantage over players who have given up on them. So that pretty much concludes it, guys. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace out.